What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ramblin Rams podcast. I'm James Torillo, along here with Jordan Bear. Jordan, before we get into things, whose jersey you wearing today?
Rocking my man Puka. I know he's going through some hard times off the field right now, and he's suffering his own like mental health problems. But we still rock with Puka, and I think Coach McVay spoke it into the best words you can. He's one of us, He's our guy. He's one of us. He's a Ram, and I think he's going to be here for a long time. And I think Puka's a good kid. I've mentioned it before. He's just dealing with some off the field issues, and like I said before, when you go from being a sixth round pick to, one of the best players in the whole world, it's a huge jump. And he's just having to adjust to it. And shout out to TJ Hushman Zeta from the Bengals. He's been mentoring Puka a lot. He went to SC, so he's an LA guy. And he thinks Puka's a great guy. And, I trust his judgment. So hopefully he can help Puka get on the right track and get ready for this season.
I love it. I love it. I know I mentioned one thing about Puka was that I made a video, and most people were saying they agreed with me, saying like I don't like how people are like taking pictures of him getting out of his car, going into rehab, and people are like breaking news: Puka Nakua is in rehab. I'm like, let the man live a little bit, you know? Like let him deal with his problems. We don't need to post on ESPN that Puka Nakua is in rehab. If he wants to share that information with us, that's fine. But to be on ESPN and be like breaking news: Puka Nakua seen getting out of his car, walking into a rehab facility, like come on, like just let him live a little bit, you know.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, I got Sam Bradford on. One of my favorite quarterbacks ever. He was my first favorite player, so I got Sammy B on. I got this jersey on eBay for like $10 after they won the Super Bowl
Oh,
because
wow.
I had the same one when I was like a little kid, but obviously it doesn't fit me anymore. So I have this one now that is like an adult medium or whatever. So I have one that fits me now. So I think this is the only St. Louis. I have a St. Louis colors golf jersey, but it's technically an LA Rams jersey. It's just the St. Louis colors because they wore those colors for a year in LA before they
Right.
switched to the navy and white. So I do have a navy and gold golf jersey, but I think that's it because I had Tavon Austin, but I outgrew that. Gave it to a kid down the street who collected football jerseys. Actually, a Cowboys fan, and it was when
Oh,
Tavon
wow.
Austin was on the
Nice.
Cowboys. So
Oh, okay. Nice. Nice.
yeah, he was also one of my favorites. But yeah, we got a lot planned for this episode. Another thing we do have to discuss before we get into our predictions for this season. We're gonna go by every game, all away games and all home games, and predict if we think the Rams are gonna win. And then maybe when the season gets closer and they come up with the actual schedule this summer, we'll do it again. But one thing I do want to discuss before we get into that is that Dexter Lawrence from the New York Giants has requested a trade. Jordan, do you see this as a realistic move for the Rams if they try to pursue him or not really?
Yeah, it's interesting because he kind of plays more of the Puna Ford role, I would say, as opposed to like in our 3-4 scheme, like Kobe Turner or Braden Fisk per se. So theoretically, he could be a fit. I will say Dexter Lawrence is a premier player, an all pro caliber player. Like, if we got Dexter Lawrence somehow in a trade, I believe we would have to give up the 13th pick, just in my opinion. I think that would have to be part of it. And I think that I would have expectations of him to be an all pro caliber player, like first team all pro type status. So, do I think it's realistic? I am not sure. I haven't heard a ton from the Giants side if this is just kind of a cat and mouse type deal trying to get a bigger contract set up for himself. I know they had a similar situation with Leonard Williams, who inevitably they did end up trading to Seattle, who was a huge
Mhm.
factor in them winning the Super Bowl. So maybe we could be looking at a similar situation with the Giants and Dexter Lawrence, and I would definitely be open to it. Like I said, I don't know exactly what it would cost. But I would certainly be open to making that work because if you add him to our group, I don't know where Puna Ford would actually fit in at that point, but you got Dexter Lawrence, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Jared Verse, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart. It's a madhouse for everyone trying to throw and run the football because while we do expect to be a dominant pass rush, Dexter Lawrence would shut down any sort of run stop that any team could fathom bringing against this defensive front. So I would totally be open to that. I don't know how realistic it is or what the Giants would be expecting. Just from a realistic standpoint, I would expect it to probably be a first round pick, maybe a player, as well as some other draft compensation. So it would be quite the haul. So realistically, I don't think that we will make the trade, but if we did, I'd be all for it for sure, going all in like that.
Yeah, I feel a very similar way that you do with this. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think the Rams are going to make that move. I think they're very happy with the guys they have on the defensive line and now overall on the defense, even including the secondary with Watson and McDuffie that they just acquired this offseason. But I would love to see it happen. I would even give up the 13th pick and more for him. I think it would probably have to include the 13th pick, a guy like Puna Ford or Braden Fisk, and maybe somebody else that's, like a special teams guy you throw in there, or like a late pick that you throw in there, something like that. But I do think it would take a lot. I don't think the Rams are going to do it, but you never know with Les Snead and Sean McVay. I didn't think they were going to get McDuffie, and they did. Didn't think for a second they get Jalen Watson. They did. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But speaking of Dexter Lawrence, we actually do play the Giants this year. Unfortunately for me, it's not in Jersey because I would have gone. It's in LA, which is better for the Rams because they're home, but would have been better for me if they were away. But let's go over the away games first.
Okay.
Uh, we have 8 away games, 8 home games, technically 9, and that includes the game in Australia against the 49ers, which we will definitely get into later in this episode. So stick around for that.
Maybe
But
save that for last.
yeah, we got to save that for last for sure. But we do have the Niners, of course, on the road, so we don't get to play them in SoFi this year, which I know they were whining about. But we play them in SoFi North, and we play them in Australia. So let's start out with Niners on the road. Let's go over that first, and then we'll get into the other road games. Do the Rams win on the road against San Francisco, or do they suffer a loss?
Well, speaking on that, their whole staff has been whining so much, complaining about it. They said they want to play that game in Mexico, actually. So another neutral site. They said since we want to send the game to Australia, they'd love to play that game in Mexico, and I'd be completely open to that. 100%. If they want to play that game down in Mexico, I'll chalk that up to a big fat Rams win for sure.
Mm, yeah, I I want to save it for we'll save it for when we get to the home game against them. But I have a lot to speak on when I get to that. I put a video out earlier this week. If you guys saw it on the on our Instagram, that's down below here. But yeah, I was pissed when I heard stuff like that. So we're gonna put a Rams win on the board for their away game against the Niners. Let's go to Seattle. Maybe a little bit of PTSD, maybe a little bit of trauma from there from the last 2 games we played there. This kind of reminds me of the Rams playing in Philly last year after losing to them in the playoffs in Philly, where I'm like, okay, they're going to come back and they're going to win, or it's going to be some heartbreaking loss like it was, and it's going to be 2 times as painful. I could see either of those things happening where it's like another extremely excruciating loss for the Rams, or they get back at them and they play how they played the first time they played the Seahawks this year and they get the win. What do you think happens in Seattle this upcoming season between the Rams and the reigning champs?
Yeah, it's hard to judge it based off of timing, but it's I don't want to be the biased Rams fan and predict us to go 17-0. So I'll
Hmm.
I'll uh, I'll defer to Seattle in this situation. They're the reigning champs. Now, I will say they have gotten a lot worse, and I think they're going to have somewhat of a fall off of their reigning Super Bowl championship. But time will tell. You know, there's still some off season left to go, and they have a chance to make up for some of the losses that they've had over the off season. But I'll give them the win for this one in Seattle.
Okay, so that puts us at 1-1. Now, of course, just a reminder to the people watching out there, this is not the official order of their schedule. The only game we know of in order is week 1 against the Niners in Australia. We do not know the order of anything else. We're just going away games first, which there's 8 of them, and then we're going to predict their home games. So we'll probably do this again if you know they come out with the schedule sometime this summer, which obviously they will. We'll probably do it again. But yeah, we got Niners on the road as a win, Seahawks on the road as a loss. Then we got the Cardinals on the road. Is this a win, or do the Cardinals upset the Rams in Arizona?
No, yeah, I think some of the benefits that the Cardinals have had over the past couple of years have been they're kind of strong at the wide receiver position. Marvin
Mhm.
Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson are no slouches. So, but luckily we have fixed those wrongs with our cornerback addition. So I think we take care of the Cardinals on the road. Now, I remember we 2-0'd them last year, right?
We did. We did.
So yeah, I think we take care of them on the road in Arizona again this year.
Yeah, we 2-0'd them last year, and the 2 years before that, we I believe we split the 2 years before that. The year before, they actually swept us. That was
Wow.
the year the Super Bowl hangover where everybody and their mom got hurt on that team. So they ended up sweeping us because the game in Arizona was the game where John Wolford played and he threw Cooper Cup a
Oh
hospital ball. And
gosh, yeah.
yeah, there was that. And then the game in LA where I can't remember if it was Bryce Perkins or John Wolford that started, but we lost that game too. So that was no fun that season. But we've had the Cardinals number for the most part in my
Yeah.
lifetime. Even going back to the St. Louis days, we had their number for a good amount of it. They had a few good years in the middle of the 2010s with Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer, guys like that, but they were never great. Like they were never the team to beat. I don't really think. Besides that one year where they played the Packers in the playoffs, and there was that really crazy game that Aaron Rodgers threw the Hail Mary, and then the Cardinals end up winning that game, but then they got blown out by the Panthers the next week. So that was really the only great year they've had in my lifetime. I would be very surprised if the Cardinals had a year like that next year. They had that quick of a turnaround. So I'll give the Rams a win, putting them to 2-1. Moving on to Tampa Bay at the Bucks. Rams are 2-1. I know this is in order, of course, but we're going into Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, that'll be a tough game. We put a pretty good smack on Tampa Bay last year. They were kind of beat up, but we put a pretty good number on them, and they've definitely got some question marks. They still got Chris Godwin and Emeka Ibuka and Kate Otten and those guys, Bucky Irving. So they've got some
Mhm.
good weapons for Baker to get the ball around too. But Mike Evans is a huge loss. He's
Yep.
kind of a franchise player for them, and they've lost some pieces on defense too. Levante David retired, and I just question. Todd Bowles has been there, I believe, ever since Bruce Arians retired. So I think they've kind of taken a step back, and unfortunately for Baker, maybe they could make the playoffs, but I think this team is just kind of on somewhat of a downward turn, and I think the Rams get them next year. I just think we're a superior team than they are.
I 100% agree with all of that. I think that's probably it's probably the Panthers' division to win now. The Saints are nowhere near really competing for a division title. I don't think the Falcons are there yet. Maybe Tua will have some bounce back year, and
Yeah.
they'll prove me wrong. But I don't think Atlanta's in that position yet. And like you said, the Bucks are kind of instead of going up, they're kind of going down. They're not in the best position. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield guy. I actually tweeted out on the JTSN channel this past week that if Stafford retires at the end of this year, I would love to go out and get Baker Mayfield to be our next quarterback. Like, and I mean that. But I don't think there's enough of a team around him besides Bucky Irving. Like you said, they lost Mike Evans. I'm not really sold on their defense entirely. There's not too many big name players on that defense anymore. I think what you said is perfect. The Rams are just overall a much better team on paper and on the field. I would also give the Rams a win for this game in Tampa Bay, which improves our record to 3-1. Now, of course, like I said, this is April. Anything can change. We don't even know the order of the schedule, but 3-1 gosh, according to our predictions, we are 3-1. Moving on to the Commanders on the road. I am a little I don't know how to feel about this because if I think about it quickly, I'm like, okay, that's a win. They weren't good last year. We're a better team. Move on. Rams win. I'm a little worried that the Commanders are going to be one of those teams that comes back next year with a chip on their shoulder and gives the Eagles a run for their money in the division. I really do. I I really like Jane Daniels. I think if he's healthy, that team's much better. They dealt with a lot of injuries last year. Did they re-sign Bobby Wagner? Or is he's still a free
He's
agent?
still a free agent, as
Hmm.
far as I know. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so he's still a free agent. I feel like they would have re-signed him if they were going to. I feel like they would have done it already. But I don't think they have a bad team. I just think that they were banged up last year and it kind of costed them. They have a good young half of their team's young, half of their team not so young, like the Bobby Wagners of the team. But I'll defer this one to you. It's kind of a toss up for me. Do you think the Rams win this game?
Yeah, I think the potential is there for the Commanders. We'll have to see who they pick. They've got a high draft pick, so it'll be interesting to see what they go with there.
Mhm.
I do like Jaden Daniels, Scary Terry, and what's the running back's name? Bill, something like that. He is some sort of fantasy joke, but yeah.
Their running.
Anyways,
I don't know why
they've
I'm
got a
blanking on the running back's name.
yeah, I don't remember his exact name, but he's pretty darn good. He had a decent year last year, and he was a rookie, but he's really
Um,
talented. They
I know
also, I
exactly
think,
who you're
have
talking about.
Eckler. I don't know 100% if they have Eckler back, but they've got a decent group on offense. I just think once again, kind of like the Bucks, we're a much better team, and I have a lot of questions with the Commanders' secondary specifically. I think they're gonna have a tough time slowing us down. They don't have exactly the best home field advantage either, so I think we can go over there and take care of business. That's kind of closer to your neck of the woods, but
Yeah.
I think we beat the Commanders. It could be a loss potentially if everything goes right for them. But like I said, I think Dan Quinn's a good coach, not a great coach. Like the Bucks, I kind of think they're on the downward again. They have a really tough division, which unfortunately we play their division next year.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I'll give us a win for that one. I feel good about that.
All right. So that improves us to 4-1. This next game is my Super Bowl. Rams Eagles. I am in Philly territory. I'm a huge Flyers fan, but I am not an Eagles fan by any means. I have plenty of friends who are Eagles fans who like to give me a hard time about the last few years. They've had our number, not saying they haven't. They absolutely have. Last year, we let that game slip away. I've never been more disgusted after a Rams game than that. But like I said, I'm from Central Jersey. I'm 50 minutes away from Philly. I go there all the time for games. I cannot stomach another loss to this team. I I try to be as non-biased on this podcast as I possibly can be, but I will say, and I never use this word on this podcast, but I hate them. I hate the
Wow.
Eagles. I really do. And I'm sorry to any I'm not sorry, but if there's any Eagle fans watching, then, that's just how I feel. So, Rams Eagles, I can't predict us losing to the Eagles. I'm going to give us a win. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think definitely it's one of those things where like it's like something's got to give at some point. They have gotten so fortunate to have beat us over some of these wins
Mm,
over the year, and I definitely think just going into next year, even unbiasedly, they've lost pieces on defense. I know they added Quinion Mitchell, and they're expecting to have a strong secondary and a solid defense, but I just kind of think they're a shell of their former selves, and I think they're going to have a hard time winning this division. Could they win this division? Yes. I think it's going to be a very competitive division where all the teams are kind of somewhere between like 8 and 9 and 10 and 7, all four of them. And so I think we do get the Eagles here on the road finally and get a win. But like I said, it depends on the year. So if we get them early on in the year on the road like last year, we should have blown them out last year. They got so lucky to get back in that game. If it wasn't for a couple special teams errors, they wouldn't have even been in that game. And so I think we definitely take care of them this time. If it's somehow like late in the year and it's in a blizzard, maybe they can get another miracle win. But I think their luck's just about run out.
Yeah, I'm not one to normally say like, oh, they got lucky or oh, they it was a fluke, but that's kind of as close as it gets because last year, two blocked field goals in the fourth quarter, not missed, blocked. And I know Eagle fans like to give their defensive line credit there, but it's not like they jumped up and it hit them in the hand and it was a really impressive block. They just put their arms up and the ball hit them in the bicep. That means the kick is too low. It was a terrible kick from Josh Carty, let's be honest. I'm not a Josh
Right.
Carty hater, but it was a terrible kick. And you can't give the Eagles any credit for that. That's just terrible special teams by the Rams. So, did the Eagles really beat us or did we beat ourselves? I know it sounds like we're
Exactly.
making excuses, but that's reality. It doesn't really feel like we lost to them. It feels like the Rams just beat themselves like they did every loss last year, pretty much. It felt like they beat themselves. But like you said, I think the Eagles' luck is got to run out eventually. I actually think the Eagles maybe take a step back. They already took a step back last year. They were Super Bowl
I,
champs, 14-3. Then they won three less games last year, and they didn't win a playoff game. I'm thinking maybe Dallas or Washington gives them a shot at the division title, and maybe we see the Eagles as a wild card team. Now I'm not guaranteeing anything. Maybe I'm just an Eagles hater, but I think the Rams are a much better team than the Eagles. Even though the Eagles beat them last year, I think the Rams were a much better team. They had a better record. They made it further in the playoffs. They should have beat them in Philadelphia. They beat themselves. I'm giving the Rams a win for this game. And if they do, I'll drive down to the link and plant a Rams flag right in the middle of that field because I can't stand that team. So
all right.
there we go. I've said my piece on the Eagles. My friends can, argue with me all they want now after they see this. But moving on to, I was about to say Oakland, Las Vegas, the
Yeah.
Raiders. I still call them Oakland. This is in Vegas, not Oakland. So win or loss, Jordan? What do we think?
Yeah, we lost the bidding war to the Raiders, unfortunately, on Kirk Cousins. But
Hmm.
I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan. I know he did beat us last year, but that was a tough loss in a weird time of the year. So this is another one of those games that I think that'll depend on timing. If you can catch the Raiders early on in the year when Kirk Cousins is in there, yeah, I think we probably blow them out, to be quite honest with you. But if you catch them later in the year in December and Fernando's in there kind of doing his thing, they're in a good rhythm, it could present to be a tough game and a tough
Hmm.
opponent. But we'll see where the timing lies. Either way, no matter who their starting quarterback is, I'm going to predict the Rams to win. We're just a way better team than they are. But shout out the Raiders. I think they're in the right direction. I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan, but they can get out of that contract realistically after 1 year. So, I won't shed any tears over them stealing Kirk Cousins from us.
Yeah, I was disappointed to see that we didn't get Kirk Cousins as our backup quarterback, but now that I see that contract, I'm kind of glad we didn't because I didn't think it would take that much for a backup QB. I would really like to have a backup QB in case anything happens to Stafford due to his age, but I don't want any part of that contract for a backup quarterback. So, the Raiders can have him at that point.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you and say it's a win. I think even if Mendoza comes in and makes the Raiders a fringe, a chance at a wild card spot kind of team, I think that's probably their ceiling. But I don't think that's going to be enough for them to beat the Rams. I think the Rams are just overall a better team, and that improves the Rams' record to 6-1 on their away games. Their final away game is against Denver, the team that they could have played in the Super Bowl if things went differently on Championship Sunday this past year. But no Bo Nix for them. So in our bracket, we actually predicted everything right up until Championship Sunday. We had Rams Broncos and the Rams beating them in the Super Bowl. So we were pretty close. But do the Rams beat them like we thought they would have in the Super Bowl, or do the Broncos take this one in Denver?
Speaking of brackets, I did pick Yukon, Michigan in the national
Wow.
championship offer
There
it.
you
Yeah,
go.
shout out your Wolverines.
Let's
I have
go.
Yukon winning though, so we'll
Oh,
see. We'll see how it finishes out.
okay.
But yeah. Back on the Rams side of things. Yeah, I think the Broncos is going to be a tough opponent. Like I said, I don't know Bo Nix's health. I actually did hear he's kind of ahead of schedule on his injury, so I expect whenever we play them, Bo Nix to be back, and they have lost kind of a few pieces. They had a Jalen Waddle, which was
Mhm.
kind of a big offseason acquisition, and a lot of people think will be a big piece mover for them. Unfortunately for the Broncos, I'm kind of torn on this one. I do think they're going to somewhat regress as a team next year. I
Mm,
think they're going to have a worse year. They went like what 14-3 last year and were the
yeah.
one seed. I don't think they replicate that level of success. It's just tough to do in this league. So I think the Broncos probably go somewhere like 10-7 or 11-6 next year. But I do think they beat the Rams this one
Mm.
unbiasedly. They're at home. Mile High is an incredibly tough place to play on the road. You got to be at your absolute A game. So I'll put the Rams at 6-2 for their away games. I think that's unbiased. I think that's fair. I think that's the level of team we are.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. I was actually thinking the same thing. I was going to give them a loss for Denver and Seattle, maybe San Francisco, but I'm not giving them a loss to the Niners. I can't get myself to do it. So 6-2 on the road, pretty good record for
I think
road
that's
game.
fair too, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So 6-2 on the road, 9 games remaining. These are their home games. The Niners, but in Australia. The Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Bills, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. Let's start with the Chiefs, um, the team that traded McDuffie, that let Jalen Watson walk to the LA Rams. Rams 6-2. They're at home. They're playing the Chiefs. Who wins this game?
Yeah, this will be an interesting one for sure. Like I said about timing, we don't know the exact schedule. We don't know if Patty's going to be playing or not, or where the Chiefs will be at. They did add Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker, so that's a little bit
Mm.
scary going into it. They retained Travis Kelsey. I did see Rasheed Rice. He's not getting suspended. That's official, from what I
Wow.
understand, on the legalities of that. So they're going to be pretty much good to go. I don't recall who their backup quarterback is if they signed anyone. It might be the same kid that they rolled out last year. No, wait. They did bring someone in. They brought in Justin Fields.
Yes, they
So
did.
that'll be
Yeah.
interesting, actually. I will say, trying to be unbiased, that'll be a really tough game. Here's where I'm at, though. We just stole their number one and number two corner. So they're a little
Mhm.
bare at that position right now on the Chiefs, and we kind of have some pretty crazy wide receivers on our side of things.
True.
So I think we dominate them offensively. Could be a high scoring game, but I'll take the Rams to hold on at home.
All right. I like it. I expect a bounce back year for the Chiefs, even if Mahomes misses a few games. I can't see that franchise just not being good at all for the second year in a row. What did they win? 6 games last year? I
Oh, I'm
mean,
not even sure,
it
honestly.
wasn't a lot. So I know Mahomes was out for the last part of it, but even the game he got hurt, they needed to win out and get help to make the playoffs, and there were about 4 or 5 games left. So that team was going nowhere, even with Mahomes healthy. So I do believe they'll have a bounce back year. They bring back Travis Kelsey. I still think I think he's a very good tight end still. I know he might not be what he once was. I still think he's very good. I think he's one of the best in the game still. However, this team didn't have much to offer last year. Even the year before when they lost in the Super Bowl, it felt like they were 15-2. They could have been 9-8 because every game they won was a one-score game basically.
Right.
Like they didn't look as dominant as they did in the last few years. I don't expect them to come back this year and go 17-0, but I don't expect them to win 5 or 6 games like they did last year. I think the Chiefs can get back to the point where they win 11 to 12 games. I think they can get back to the point where they win that division, but not to the point where they beat the Rams. I got the Rams winning this one to improve to 7-2.
I like that.
So moving on, staying in that division, the guys who pay rent in our stadium, the Chargers. How do we feel about the all LA matchup?
Yeah, I actually am really high on the Chargers next year. I think they are going to win that division.
Mm.
I think Justin Herbert wins league MVP. That's just where I'm
Wow.
at, my opinion. I said that a few weeks ago on our quarterback rankings. I just think with Mike McDaniels, they got a really good offensive line theoretically if everyone can stay healthy. They got some decent running backs in there. They got to figure out the wide receiver position a little bit, but I just like where the Chargers are at. But that being said, they're the B team to our A team out in LA. So they're going to have to take a back seat to us. Justin Herbert might win MVP, but he's not winning this game. I got the Rams winning this one at home for us.
Yes, that's right. It technically, well, not technically, but sort of a home game, and we know that there's more Ram fans out there in LA than there are Chargers fans. So
Right.
I'm sure there will be a good amount of Rams fans in that stadium in SoFi, our stadium, not theirs, in our stadium, to help us improve to 8-2. Now we go on to the Bills. I know you're a big Josh Allen guy. This is a tough one. We're at home. Last time we played them at home, we beat them. This was my Super Bowl prediction for last year. I don't have my official Super Bowl prediction yet for next season, but I'm thinking of running it back with Bills Rams again. I'm not really sure, but this could be a Super Bowl matchup. Two contenders, Josh Allen versus Matthew Stafford, the last two MVPs. Who wins this one in LA?
Yeah, I think this will be a really good game. Shout out Josh Allen. He just had his first baby the other day. Actually,
Oh.
I saw that on Instagram. But I think we get the Bills here. I think here's where I'm at with the Bills. I think Josh Allen is otherworldly. I think he's a great
Mhm.
player. And they added DJ Moore and they still have Cook. I think they have a good team. I think their defense is suspect. I think they didn't exactly make the best head coaching hire. I think they have a lot of problems still. I don't think they're there. I don't think they're ready to compete yet. I don't think they're on the Rams level. I don't think they win that division, unfortunately.
Mm.
And we'll see. I don't have high expectations on the Dolphins or Jets. I do think the Bills will make the playoffs, probably win about 10 or 11 games. Josh Allen is an MVP caliber player every single season. I'm sure he'll have like 40 something touchdowns next year, like he does every single year, and he'll carry them. And he'll probably carry them in this game and keep it close. But I think Stafford will outduel them just like he did last time. And I'll take the Rams for a win here.
All right. When you say that the Bills don't win the division, I'm assuming you mean New England. I would assume.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think New
Okay.
England actually is a lot better than a lot of people think. I know
Mm.
they got kind of smacked in the Super Bowl, but I think Mike Vrabel's a great coach. I know Drake May gets a lot of flack, and by no means do I think he should have been in the MVP discussion with the great Matthew Stafford last
Mm.
year. But I think the Patriots got a lot going for them, and I think they're going to have another really strong year next year, honestly.
Yeah, I can't see them doing anything but getting better. Even if their record is a game or two worse, I actually think they'll be better just as a team. I don't think they were a team that was, what were they, 14-3?
They were, yeah, I
I
think
don't
so.
I don't think they were a true 14-3 team last year, and I think that showed in the Super Bowl. I hate to say it, but I kind of saw it coming where the Seahawks were just going to dominate them for all four quarters.
Same.
I think if the Rams play that team in the Super Bowl last year, I know it's a big what if. I know we weren't there, but if the Rams do play the Patriots last year, I think the Rams would have done the same thing to them. I don't think the Patriots would have beaten us in the Super Bowl for the third time. I don't think it would have happened, but unfortunately the Rams didn't get there, so we'll never know. But I could totally see a Rams Patriots Super Bowl. Obviously, I'm picking the Rams from the NFC, so
Yeah, I think that would be my prediction right now. If I had to predict, I think I would say Rams Patriots Super Bowl next year, in my opinion.
I love that prediction just because that's how like it was. Like I loved that era of football when I was in middle school where the Patriots were still good. I always loved Tom Brady. All those teams were still good that were always good like the Patriots, but then the Rams were finally good. So it was like my team was good at the same time, but it was also like still my childhood kind of. So I love the idea of Rams Patriots. I just also don't love the history of Rams Patriots in the Super Bowl, especially because that day after they lost the Super Bowl 13-3, which by the way, those words are banned in my house. I'm not allowed to say that. Uh, that day at school, the next day was torture.
Oh yeah.
I was the only Rams fan in the grade, so it's not, and because I'm in New Jersey, it's not like I was in eighth grade when that happened. So it's not like we're in LA and it's all Rams fans, just like all equally depressed about it. I was the only one, and I'm sure there were a bunch of Patriots fans. They were all Eagles fans making fun of me. I'm like, are you kidding me? But yeah, I hated that, but I could totally see a Rams Patriots Super Bowl this next year. Almost happened this past year, so
Right.
wouldn't be surprised if we saw Rams Patriots in the upcoming season. But back to our predictions. You have the Rams beating the Bills. I'll give them a win as well. That improves us to 9-2 on the season. Now on to Green Bay at home. Jordan Love going up against Matthew Stafford. Stafford knows a thing or two about the Packers after so many years in Detroit. Didn't really have their number, but he knows a thing or two about them for sure. Who wins this game?
Yeah, I'm going to try to remain unbiased here. I feel like I've picked a lot of close Rams win, and I think this is definitely a game we could definitely win. I think we are a better team than the Packers, but the Packers do present a number of problems. They've got really great wide receivers. I do think Jordan Love is a good, not great quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still got a lot of room to grow. They got a great coach. Shout out to Matt LaFleur, McVay guy. So it's a team we've struggled with over the years playing against for sure. And I'll shout out Micah Parsons. I know first and foremost, being from Dallas, about Micah Parsons. He is an
Mm-hmm.
animal. He's a beast. Not someone you want to be playing against. So I'll unbiasedly give the Packers a win here. Like I said, I don't think we go 17-0. I'll give the Packers this one.
All right, so that's our first home loss. So the Rams go down to 9-3. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you said. I think going into this game, I'm not entirely sold on the Packers. Like I just see them as like a 10-7 team. Like I just don't see them. I think Mike Parsons is great. Him being healthy makes their defense 10 times better. I'm not entirely sold on Jordan Love in this offense. I'm a big Josh Jacobs guy. I've had him in fantasy a few years now in my keepers league, but that's really it. I'm not a huge fan of their receiving core. I'm not a huge
Really?
fan. I'm really not. I think
I
it's
like their
good.
receivers.
I think it's good. I don't think it's Rams level. And I think
Right.
now we have the corners to maintain their wide receiver core. So I don't hate the idea of giving them a loss. Uh, so we can stick with the loss, but I think that's definitely a game the Rams can win. And I know you also agree that it's obviously a game they can win. They can win any game. So that puts us down to 9-3. Then we go at home against the Cowboys, your hometown team. How do you feel about this game?
Right, I am a self-proclaimed expert on the Dallas Cowboys. I live in Dallas. I hear everything about the Cowboys. I know almost as much about the Cowboys as I do the Rams. I
Wow.
hear everything that they got going on about them. I know their strengths. I know their weaknesses. I know their team. They got our boy Kobe Durant. They've
Yeah.
gone through somewhat of a secondary rehaul. So they got Kobe Durant. They got Darion Kendrick as well. So we'll see what their secondary looks like. They got Daron Bland, who has been a big play guy over the years. And I think he got a pick six on Stafford a few years ago when we played them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he had that big year where he like broke the record on pick sixes. So
Yeah, you're
he's a
right.
great player. Daron Bland is a capable player, but their defense has major question marks. Their edge rusher position has major, major question marks. They do have
Mhm.
the great Quinnen Williams, who's an absolute beast and a monster. And he's going to see double and triple teams all game when he plays the Rams because he doesn't have a lot else going around him. They're suspect in the middle linebacker position. They have decent cornerbacks now that they've upgraded on that position, and they've upgraded on safety as well. Is that going to be enough to go against Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, and whomever else may be out there? Hopefully Kenyon Sadiq or something. No, no, they're going to get blasted off the field offensively. On the other hand, they do have Dak Prescott, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams. They got I'm blanking on the tight end's name.
Ferguson?
Yeah, Jake Ferguson. Exactly. He's really good too. They got some really good offensive linemen. So they do present a problem. They've got Brandon Aubrey, I think, who will be back in some form next year. Probably the best kicker of all time, just from a
Best
talent
kicker in the game.
standpoint.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they have talent. I actually really like Schottenheimer as a head coach. I was a huge fan of his dad. His dad was one of the best coaches to never win a Super Bowl, and I think he replicates a lot of the same qualities that his dad had. And so I think the Cowboys will be an improved team next year. I think they could win that division. Their defense is suspect though. That middle of the field is going to be tough on them, and like it's been for many, many years now, the Cowboys are going to have a tough time when they're going against the elite teams like the LA Rams or whoever else may be next year. Seattle Seahawks, theoretically, whoever is going to be the elite teams next year. They're going to have a tough time going against them. And I believe we are an elite team. And I think we're going to win that football game.
I 100% agree. I don't think their defense has what it takes to stop Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, possibly Kenyon Sadiq, or somebody that we take in the first round like we predicted in the last video. If you're curious to see who we think the Rams are going to take, go watch episode 24 right here on the JTSN YouTube channel. But yeah, I just don't think their defense has what it takes to stop our offense. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be covered, honestly. I just think our offense is elite. Their defense is not. Rams win. I think that's all I really have to say. So I'm going to give the Rams a win, just like you did. That puts the Rams to 10-3. Now at home against the Giants, a little New York LA matchup. Two of the biggest, probably the two biggest sports cities, or just brand wise in the world. Maybe not a rivalry in football, but it is in some of their sports with the Dodgers and Yankees. Teams like that. I know the Dodgers and Mets have played in the postseason a bunch of times. The Knicks and Lakers have played in the finals before.
Yep.
But now we shift our attention to the LA New York matchup in football, which is Giants Rams. The Giants have made some good improvements this offseason. They got a new coach. We're going to see how Jackson Dart and Scatabo do in a full season. Hopefully they can stay healthy, of course. No, maybe no Dexter Lawrence. Maybe. I know we talked about that, but I'll just ask the question straightforward. Do the Rams win this game? Yes or no?
You know what? Wild opinion. I'm going to give the Rams a loss for this one,
Hmm.
actually. I think it's a tough matchup. The Giants are kind of a sleeper team, and I think they could potentially make the playoffs and maybe even win that division. I'm high on Jackson Dart. I
Wow.
think he's got a lot of talent. I think Cam Scattaboo is an absolute beast. Tyrone Tracy has had multiple good seasons now, and Malik Neighbors is a beast as well. We'll see what they do in the draft. On defense, we'll see what happens with Dexter Lawrence, but they also got Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, someone else too. They got another edge rusher who's insane as well. Oh gosh. Oh, Kayvon
Thibodeau?
Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Kayvon Thibodeau as well. So they've got dogs at the edge rusher position. They're an extremely physical team. So if you're not playing that best ball, they can get you and they can upset you. So I'm gonna give the Giants an upset win here. Like I said, I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can. I don't want to predict some
Mhm.
crazy 17-0 record. So I'll give the Giants an upset win here.
All right. I I'm gonna finally disagree with one. I say the Rams get the win here. I think the last time the Giants beat the Rams, I was in elementary school. So I'm going to give the Rams a win. Like I said earlier, I wish this game was in MetLife so I could go. Probably better for the Rams, though, if they're home, just because it's home field advantage. So if we do give them a loss, that puts them down to 10-4 with 3 games remaining against the Cardinals, Seahawks, and Niners. Home against the Cardinals, what do we think? Is this a win, or do the Cardinals get us in SoFi like they have in years past?
No, yeah, I think we take care of business here. I think we 2-0 the Cardinals. I'm not sure where they're going to be at. I've seen a lot of people theorize that they're going to get Ty Simpson. I don't think that's concrete. I think they're going to roll with Jacoby Brissett, who I think has talent, but I view him more as a backup quarterback. So I think the Rams get the win 2 times against the Cardinals next year.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think the Cardinals are in that position yet. I actually think that they're going to be a team that contends for the first pick next year. I know they only won 3 games this year. It felt like they were a little bit better than their record. They actually gave us a little bit of a scare in the last week of the season when we were trying to clinch that 5 seed.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, we came back and won that game, but that was a little concerning for a little bit. So I think the Cardinals weren't as bad as their record. Were they good? No, but I don't think they were a 3-14 team really. This year, I do think they will be. No more Kyler Murray. a weird quarterback situation. I don't think they draft a quarterback. I think they're going to roll with Brissett or whoever it may be, just for
Minshew.
or Minshew. Yeah, that's right, Minshew. So they're going to roll with him. I think they'll win a few games, but not enough to not be last in the division and contend for that number one pick. And then they'll draft a quarterback next year. So I'm going to give the Rams a win for this one as well. They sweep the Cardinals in 2026. On to the Seahawks, the second match of the season, depending on how the schedule goes. We had them losing on the road to them this year. They lost to them on the road technically twice last year, but we beat them at home. Do we beat them at home again?
I think so. I think we split with Seattle. I think we win the game at home. I think we could 2-0 them potentially. Like I said, I think they're going to take a step back, but I have a lot of respect for Mike McDonald, and I actually have a lot of respect for Sam Darnold too. I think he's a proven winner at this point. Over the past 2 seasons, I think that's undeniable. I do think they win. Man, it's tough to predict right now. I want to wait a little bit, but I think they border on that 6, 7 seed realm next year and find a
Mhm.
way to make the playoffs. I think their year will be similar to the Eagles' fall off last year. Like they'll still make the playoffs, but they'll be a first round exit. So I think we beat them here, and I would be open to welcoming playing them in the playoffs next year. I feel like we are definitely the better team.
I agree. I think we're the better team. The only thing that still, I don't want to say scares me, but I think something that Seattle really does have going for them is just their defense overall. I think they had the best defense in football, but I think their offense is going to take a step back next year. They're losing Kenneth Walker, who has tortured me my whole life as a Michigan and Rams fan. That 5 touchdown game he had against Michigan back when he was at Michigan State, beating us as a Seahawk the last year, the last 2 games. So I'm so glad that he's gone. I actually was thinking about giving us a loss against the Chiefs just because they have Kenneth Walker because I cannot escape that guy. I just can't. So I was actually thinking about giving us a loss for that game, but I didn't. And I'm not going to give us one for the Seahawks either because I do think we're a better team. I know this is a hot take to a lot of people, but I think Puka Nacua is a much better receiver than JSN.
Oh
I
wow.
I think JSN is a very talented receiver. However, I don't think he's going to be as consistently good as Puka Nacua has been in the last few years. Puka Nacua has been a top 5 receiver in football 3 years now.
Yeah,
JSN has only been in that conversation for a year. And I don't think he's going to stay there very long. I think he's great. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's as talented as Puka is. I think teams are probably going to figure him out. Now we actually have a number one corner to put on JSN when we face him twice a year. I think Puka Nacua has the better quarterback throwing to him. I think he has the better offense overall. And I like Sam Darnold. I think he's a winner. He is a winner. He just won the Super Bowl, and he had a back-to-back 14-win seasons with one with the Vikings, one with the Seahawks. I don't think he's an elite quarterback though. I think
I
he's
don't
a
either.
I think he's a game manager. I think he's a good quarterback. He gets the job done. I think the last 2 quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl are kind of similar. I'm no shade to Hurts or Darnold. I'm not saying I dislike either of these guys or that they're not good. I think they're both good. I don't think they're necessarily a top 5 quarterback like some people think they are just because they won the Super Bowl. I
I
think
agree.
I think there's a very good team around them. They both have great defenses around them, great coaching, great offense around them, great running game, a great receiving core. I think they do a job well enough to be Super Bowl champs. They are not elite at their position. And I don't think Sam Darnold is going to have a third straight 14-win season. And I think that's what it's going to take for them to win the division over the Rams. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Rams get this win, which puts the Rams at 12-4, sets us up for the only game. Obviously, they're not going to go into this game 12-4 because it's week 1. But the last game on our prediction here in Australia, the 49ers and the LA Rams. I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on this game and the whole situation with it?
Yeah, this has been a really interesting situation. I've really gotten a kick out of it and enjoyed hearing the 49ers fans and their coaching staff all whine about, the Rams, they requested us out in Australia for week 1, and they didn't want to play us at home where we're going to dominate the stands. And I agreed with your take when you said if y'all are the way more popular team, then it should be the same stands layout theoretically in Australia.
Yeah.
So that made complete sense to me. I think it's just them making excuses. I thought it was really, really funny that Shanahan was so beat up about it, and he just didn't want to play the big bad Rams week one in Australia. And yet, I think if they're that worried about it, that just shows you they know what's coming. They're going to Australia to get their rear ends handed to them. I'm not going to necessarily predict a blowout, but I think we hang at least 30 something points on them. I think we have a good showing. I'm still waiting for that last little offensive move and figure out how this offseason will shake out for us. But we're the better team. I know they added Mike Evans, and he's a future Hall of Famer. He's a great player. He's not as good as Devonte Adams. I'm just gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Hot take. I think they were the same draft class. Adams is the better player. I know Mike Evans has the
100%.
ring. He played with Tom Brady, the GOAT. Yeah,
Yeah.
give Devonte Adams Tom Brady for a couple years, and we'll see if he wins a ring. But no hate to Mike Evans, all hate to the 49ers. They can keep whining and whining. The 40 whiners keep doing as they do. They'll keep whining their way to another loss, and I feel really good about that game week one. I got my calendar marked September 10th. Waiting for Thursday night. I wish it was next week. I'm so ready
Mhm.
for football season to start. But I'm really excited about it. I really expect us to be a great team going into next year. I love that we know it's the 49ers because we know them so well. And I think we'll know what to be expecting with that group. And, we've had our drama with Puka and everything. They got their own wide receiver drama. They lost Jawan Jennings. Ricky
Mhm.
Pearsall got shot last year.
Yeah.
And Brandon Ayuk, good Lord, who knows what's going on with him? So they're a complete mess over there, and I think we give it to them here. And I don't know if George Kittle is going to be back for week one. He had a bad injury last year and just gut instinct. I wouldn't expect him to be back by then, but even if he is, George Kittle, as great as he is, he's a bit on the decline. So I think the Rams win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's perfectly said. I know I shared my thoughts on this a little bit on social media this past week. I think I stitched a video from Dan is a dragon or something. I don't know. That no hate to the guy, but I don't really remember the name. So it was something like that, like Dan the Dragon, something like that. Big 49ers fan. He was basically saying the Rams have to be the softest team in the NFL because they were dodging playing the Niners in LA. But my point that I said that you mentioned was if you have more fans, aren't you just going to take over the stands in Australia anyways? So why would we do that? That makes no sense. And no NFL team is going to sit down and say, oh no, our rival's coming into our home field and they're going to take over the stands. Let's tell the NFL we want to play this game in Australia. First of all, the Rams aren't the ones that get to decide that. That's the NFL that gets to decide that. The Rams can't go to the NFL and say, we want to play in Australia against the 49ers. Like, why would we do that? And another point I'd like to make I said this in the video I posted. You can take over the stands, we'll take over the scoreboard. That's it. And you take over the stands in LA, you take over the stands in San Francisco. Guess what? We're going to win. And we're going to win in either place because the Rams are going to bring out the brooms. They're going to beat the 49ers twice this upcoming season. And the Rams are going to finish 13-4. They're going to win this game. I don't want to guarantee victory. I'm not one to try to, brag about I don't want to run my mouth and say, oh, I'm guaranteeing the Rams beat the 49ers, but I do feel good about this. I know it's like 6 months away, but I feel good about this because I think the Rams are a better team. I think the Niners are going to be good. I actually do think they're going to be very good. I actually think the Niners are going to be second place in the division behind the Rams.
I do too.
I think
I
the Seahawks
agree.
are going to come in third if I had to predict it right now. Now, could the Seahawks come in second? Sure. Could the Seahawks win the division again? Sure. But I think that the Rams are going to finish in first place. I think we're going to set up for possibly an NFC championship game in LA. The Rams as the 1 seed, the Niners as the 5 or 6 seed. And
Wow.
we're going to get a rematch between the Rams and Niners for the 2021-22 NFC championship. And, oh, I can't forget. I like forget. Who won that game? Rams Niners in
We
SoFi?
did.
Oh, that's right. We won in Levi's South. That's right. We won anyways because the whole crowd was red and it didn't matter because the Rams were better. That's right. But no, I'm like jokes aside. Like I feel like if they're upset about playing in Australia, come see us in the playoffs in LA then. Because if we win the division, come to our house, come to Rams' house, take over the stands all you want, and we will do our job on the field just like we have the last few years against you guys. So I think the Rams win. I think they finished 13-4 on the season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. I like that record prediction. I think 13-4. That's what we went last year too. So I know we got a tough schedule next year, but
I
I
think
think 13 and
were
4.
we 12 and I thought we were 12-5 last year.
Oh, we were? Oh, snap. Okay.
I
So
think.
maybe a
Yeah, we
one
were.
game improvement. And even if we were 12 and 5, I think we're right in that realm, 12 and 5, 13 and 4 range. I think that's the quality of team we are. Whether we get the one seed or not, TBD. I think it's going to be really competitive because, like I said, I don't think the NFC East is going to have any crazy, 13 or 14 win team. I think they're all going to be around that 8, 9, 10 range. I think the NFC South also is going to be like I mean, what the Panthers won that division with 8 wins last year.
Hmm.
I could totally see the same type of situation next year. So that just leaves the NFC North, and it'll be interesting to see how that division goes because the Vikings, I think they're going to be kind of a mess next year. The Packers will be good, not great. I think the Bears actually probably win that division, and the Lions maybe compete for a wild card spot.
Hmm.
Shout out Goff, but Bears, Packers, Lions are all pretty good, but I don't think any one of them wins like 13 or 14 wins either. So I totally think we could get the number one seed next year for sure.
I think it's going to be between us, San Francisco, and actually Chicago. I
Yeah.
think they're going to be really good. I mean, they how many games did they win last year? 11, I believe it was, and they were they were a completed pass into the red zone away from beating the Rams and going to Seattle. I don't think they would have beat Seattle because we didn't and we beat them. I don't think they would have beat Seattle, but they could have beaten us. And you never know what happens from there. Maybe we see the Bears
Right.
win the NFC. Who the heck knows? So I think they're only going to get better. I think Caleb Williams is only going to get better. I'm a big fan of DeAndre Swift and his game. I think he's a great running back. Uh, I I think it was weird that they got rid of DJ Moore. I know they traded him. Where did they trade him to again? DJ Moore?
Yeah, he got traded to the Bills, but they're really
That's right.
high on Luther Burden. He's a really good player, and I was really high on him. I know Jake Ellenbogen was really high on him last year in the draft, and I was pulling for him to be a Ram, but the Bears got him, and he's a heck of a player. And so is Roma Dunze.
Yeah.
And they're tight ends. Your boy Colson Loveland. I got him on my keepers fantasy team. He's an absolute beast. I wish we would have got him too. So
Yeah.
they got some really good young players on that Bears offense. They'll be all right.
Yeah, I actually have a hot take about Colson Loveland, and I think I've said something similar to this because he was a Wolverine, and I loved his game as a Michigan fan. I loved watching him play. He was basically just like a bigger receiver. He could block, and he was the Wolverines' best receiver for a few years, and we had a pretty good receiving core during our national championship run in 2023. So that's saying a lot. Um, I think Colson Loveland will be a top five tight end in the NFL by the end of next year. And I
Wow.
think I think I don't know if he'll be quite on the same tier as a guy like Brock Bowers, but I think he'll be, the top five tight ends for the future are probably guys like Bowers, maybe Kyle Pitts, maybe he'll actually, break out for a full season in the next year or two. Colston Loveland, uh, I think Kenyon Sadiq is going to be in that conversation no matter where he's drafted, which is kind of why I want the Rams to get him. Uh, and then of course Sam Laporta. Um,
Don't
I'm
forget Tyler Warren from
Tyler
the
Warren. That's
Colts.
what I was
He's a
forgetting.
beast.
I knew I was forgetting somebody. Yeah, Tyler Warren is also in the conversation. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other good young tight ends in the league. Uh, I McBride on Arizona.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
McBride.
he's going to be really good. I like why am I blanking on his name from Green Bay, the guy that got hurt. Kraft.
Kraft.
I think he's going to be very
He's
good.
really good. He
I
was a
know.
big reason why the Packers kind of fell off last year.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know there's a good amount of young tight ends in the league right now. I even think Ferguson or Schoonmaker aren't going to be top five, but I think that's a very good tight end group they have there. And yeah, I think that's basically the future of the tight end position. I think Colson Loveland's going to be a big part of it. He turned up in the postseason last year and helped the Bears win a playoff game and get to where they got. So I think he's going to be great. I was actually hoping the Rams would draft him last year, even though we had
Same.
Higbee. I was hoping we'd grab him like late first, just for depth and instead of Ferguson. But I'm fine with Ferguson, and I don't think we were in the position to grab Loveland where we were. So, but yeah, that's my hot take. I think he'll be a top five tight end in the next year or so. So, but yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 25. A pretty big milestone for us. Episode 25 of the Ramblin' Rams
Wow,
podcast. So
nice.
that's pretty cool. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up, Jordan?
Yeah, had a great time making these podcasts with you. Really excited for the draft coming up. Still waiting to see what we do with this backup quarterback position. I'm kind of pulling for Russell Wilson at this point. I think he could
Hmm.
be a good veteran presence on the team. Super Bowl champion. He's maybe a future Hall of Famer. He's kind of had a bad downward of his career, but Russell Wilson's a great player, and he is a smart player. And I
Mhm.
think he could come in and add a lot to this team potentially. So, I'd like us to add Russell Wilson at the backup spot. I don't want us to draft a quarterback early. So let's add Russell and maybe see that what wide receivers are available and go from there.
I know a lot of people are a big fan of Jimmy Garoppolo now. I know the ladies are a big fan of Jimmy Garoppolo, but I just can't get behind the Jimmy Garoppolo bandwagon. I can't hop on it for any under any circumstances. I think there's better options. I'm not sitting here saying that I hate Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a Ram. I don't hate him, but I think there's better options. I'll put it that way. But yeah, this has been episode 25 of the Ramblin' Rams podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed our predictions for next season. Like I said, we'll come out with an updated prediction video once the Rams full schedule comes out sometime this summer. Probably, I think it comes out June or July
Yeah,
normally.
something like that.
Yeah,
Probably around a month or two.
yeah. So we'll do another video then. You can always find the Ramblin' Rams podcast here on the JTSN YouTube channel every Monday night. And as always, go Rams.